Hello, welcome everyone. This is Charlene Lee, and today I'm going to be talking about how we can use generative AI to drive sales and revenues, especially in the B2B space. So I am broadcasting today from the Orlando airport, so fingers crossed everything goes okay. But please, would love to hear from you today. Please share where you're coming from, and also how are you using generative AI to support your sales activities? So it'd be curious to know how you're using it, how you anticipate using it, don't want to use it even because you just don't trust it. Would love to hear what the state of the art is when it comes to using these tools for driving revenue and sales. So let's get into it. For a couple reason I wanted to talk about this is that I've been speaking to quite a few salespeople, some chief revenue officers, and they know that generative AI is out there, that it is a really powerful tool, but aren't quite sure how to use it, when it's appropriate. They're getting pitched from their various CRM vendors and marketing partners that this is something they could do. So, what's the real wheel that's out there? So, I want to go into this a little bit today. So, first of all, there are some real challenges that salespeople face and that CROs face. In particular, sales is highly variable. It is very people driven, unstructured. Selling is has a lot of interaction and transactions, lots of data, and especially with these Salesforce automation tools, it's become even more of a burden in some ways. These tools are supposed to help, but the CRM and sales automation tools are also just putting on a huge administrative burden onto people. So I don't meet very many salespeople who say, I love my CRM. So we'll talk about how that's changing, how generative AI is changing some of these interfaces. And we also know that selling itself is taking on a lot more of this requirement to do a lot of the marketing. So social selling has become a lot more interesting to people. They know they should do it, but it takes a lot of time. Nobody has enough time. And then we also know that challenger sales, where you are doing deep research into what your account, your prospect is doing, and being able to show up as a resource, as an expert in their business, again, requires time. And these are all things that generative AI can help. So I want to just give you a few stats that are out there. McKinsey has said that their research indicates that AI, people who are using AI are seeing a revenue uplift of 3 to 15% and a sales ROI uplift of 10 to 20%. BCG says you're seeing two times the number of sales of leads generated, 30% boost in sales reps lead generation and management capacity, 2x lift in cross-selling, upselling rates, and I love this 50% jump in lead to sale conversion ratios. So this is not just about efficiency of sales, but it's also about the effectiveness of sales. So I think it's time to sit up, take notice, and talk about what it is that you can do with this. So just a shout out quickly to Jay. Thanks for joining from Rockford. And again, please share where you're coming from, how you're using generative AI for sales, or I'd post some of the questions around what are some of the challenges or things that you have questions around sales and generative AI. So the promise that I'll just get into this. The real promise of where we characterize this is that we can't imagine that a salesperson would be replaced by generative AI. This is very much unlike some of the other job categories we're looking at. But I think of it as AI becoming another team member, a very valuable team member on your sales team. And the reason and the four roles, and this originally came from a piece that I saw on BCG, but I really like the structure, so I just thought I blow it up and do it a bit more. There are four roles that AI can play inside your team. They can be the ultimate sales assistant. They can be this fantastic generative marketer creating tons of content for you. They can be this personal data analytics, data scientist at your call, back and call. It's no longer you have to go to the inner sanctum of data scientists to beg for a report and then wait 2 or 3 weeks for something to show up. You can literally query your customer data and get all this deep insight that is actionable. And the last and most interesting area, I think, is that it can also function as a coach to your salespeople. And as a manager, as a thought partner, as somebody to go and do a lot of that analysis again, but provide coaching insight for you to be a better coach and manager to your salespeople. So let's dig into each of these areas. The first area is like, I think this is the most amazing thing. Again, I mentioned nobody likes your CRM. Nobody likes going in and having to capture all of the sales information, and yet we know this is such an important part of the process. So this amazing ultimate sales assistant is somebody who can take notes in your meetings, have it automatically entered as summaries into the CRM, can capture that the meeting is been scheduled, looks at it, and also can set up some rules to say if you haven't talked to somebody or followed up from the action points generated from that meeting, that it'll create again to-do lists and dates and put them on the calendar and make sure those things are happening. So one of the things around this is that it is just hard to do all of this. You do one sales call and you could do it for an hour, and you'll spend another hour or 2 hours just generating the content to go into the CRM to document that you even had this, and then to schedule and do all these follow-ups. I'm using tools like fireflies.ai, or some people using Otter. These are meeting transcription tools that summarize the meeting, identify action steps, and then with a push of a button or it's fully integrated, can go directly into your CRM because that meeting, the attendees are on that meeting, it's in your calendar and it just integrates it and it shows up in your CRM. No need to take notes. Now, the reality is, it is still pretty basic. The summaries are not even summaries. I have found I take the summaries from my meetings, put them back into a ChatGPT or Claude, and then have it summarize that into really succinct areas. And then the link back into your to dos and actions isn't quite all there yet. So some work to be done there, but you can see the potential behind this in that instead of having to tediously open up different applications and do all these different things, it will just automatically do this. So the documentation, entering requires more training, more reports. All of that goes away because you just have a simple interface and it does it automatically in the background. So imagine again just this wonderful sales assistant who can take notes, puts everything in, schedules your next meetings, follows up, and it is absolutely fantastic to do that. The, the follow on to that is once you have done a lot of that capture, then what do you do with it? Now, this is where the second role of being a great marketer for that salesperson is really essential. So imagine that all the different tasks that are required now to go and actually create an email from somebody. You need to go and review the CRM data to find a good lead. Go to LinkedIn to research the background on the role. Does this sound familiar and painfully familiar? You spend more time researching the company on Google or going through the website, and then you finally draft a personalized email with some catchy phrases in the subject line to catch their attention, encourage them to open up the email from you, a complete and total stranger in some cases. So all of that is really hard and time consuming and painstakingly detail oriented. So if your sales assistant can gather some of that basic information, then your personal marketer can now use the generative AI tools to just look at these things. So I can say, hey, find me all the marketing decision makers who are LinkedIn on the US, on the West Coast, who I have a second degree connection to. uh, find those people, look at the external information, automate this, and then create some emails that I can potentially review and send out to people. So these are all things that, again, AI is starting to do. The third area is that data scientist, that data analytics person who can understand just with natural language, find me those people, do some analysis. Show me, for example, the people who have high account value potential, who I haven't contacted in the last month. Show me the people who are similar, who I've had really good luck with, who are similar to them inside of my database, inside of our my Google networks, I'm sorry, my LinkedIn networks, and rank order them in terms of the people who are most likely to respond to a particular pitch that I'm thinking of doing. So you would never ask your data team to do that sort of personalized analysis because it would have been so hard. But now with these generative AI tools, you can do that sort of analysis with natural language and be able to pull out those leads in a very quickly. So this is about tying together all these disparate data points that may live inside of your CRM, that may be living inside your marketing automation, that may actually be looking at the preferences and behavior of these customers from multiple data points and tying all of these disparate places together. So that's the real promise behind that. And the last area is really around coaching and the analysis and the planning. So I'm going to do the coaching part first. In that, again, if you're doing a key part of sales is the presentation. How do you present the information? Are you paying attention to how the customer is reacting? So looking and discovering all of the different things about being a great salesperson when it's put into that coach can understand and analyze, hey, you're writing these emails, you're not getting good responses from them. They're below what you would expect. Let's go and analyze those, see what's going on. Or if you're not closing sales or not setting up the appointments, what is it in your interactions that could be improved? So it's looking at all of the parameters of how you're performing, finding and identifying errors, and then offering very specific things based on your actual behaviors of what you could be doing differently. What I find extremely interesting are the ones that can give you real-time feedback. So this is still very much in the formative stages, but inside of call centers, you now have the ability for people, the technology to detect with a person's tone, the how quickly they're speaking, the sentiment that that person may be having. And with video, you can also understand with body language, is the person fidgeting a bit? Are their eye movements showing that they're they're having some sort of dissonance in something they're hearing? And it can actually suggest reasons why that it notify you first of all that you're the person you're talking to is feeling uncomfortable, but then also give you suggestion based on what you were saying. And when they notice that this discomfort coming up, what is it that probably triggered it? They come back and say, hey, I want to check in with you. Did you have any questions around the pricing? Or were there any concerns you have about the support levels we have with this product or service? So being able to stop, be aware of these things, the way I think about it is to put empathy goggles in front of you so that you can see the customer or the prospect for who they are, understand their state, because you may be so focused on delivering the content that you want to talk to them about that you may not see these cues necessarily. So that kind of coaching is not only just extending what would naturally be happening in coaching, but I feel that with every interaction, with every call, with every presentation you make, you can use that as feedback upon which you can get coaching on. So we think that this is going to be a huge impact in terms of providing insights into, again, improving sales effectiveness. And then from a sales and planning perspective, if you're a sales manager or again, the chief revenue officer, understanding how your sales force is performing, where people are excelling, where are people not, how to allocate different geographies, different products, accounts. It's one of the hardest things to do when you're managing a sales team, but having those kinds of analytical tools and ability to do this so that it's not just looking at past data, but looking at forward interactive indicators of where things could potentially be going and being able to run scenarios against different ways of staffing and allocating accounts can be extremely helpful to sales management too as well. So, just before I go on, Alice has a great point here. Super interesting. As a human who has sat in and observed sales meetings, I'm always so aware when the message isn't landing, but the person delivering the pitch doesn't realize it. And again, I think it's one of those things that generative AI can actually be really good at helping us understand and also how to improve when we're missing these very visible cues or sometimes indetectable cues to just stop, slow down, and go, wait, let me check in with you. Are we all good with this? Any questions that you may have? even acknowledging like, hey, I've been going on about this, but want to see if you have any concerns. Because you've noticed that, or the AI, your system has noticed that there's something that may be bothering them. So that's what I wanted to take you through the main part there. And Sarah, thank you for once for joining. I'm glad you're finding this to be so helpful. So a couple actions to take if you are a CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, sales leader, or even a salesperson, to say back to your sales leadership, hey, maybe we should be looking at some of these things and these tools. So the most important thing, and I do this across all of my generative AI strategy, coaching, and frameworks, is to identify the biggest sales pain points that you want to tackle. What things could you do to make that salesperson's life, their job, just easier? There's so many burdens that they have. Things like, just tracking down the right document to send to somebody can take hours and hours to just find that perfect document. Whereas if you can just say, here's the situation with the customer, find me that document, it would just make life so much easier. So the reason why I think this is important is that you want to have these early wins. And if the salespeople find that this takes away the biggest pain points that they have, they will learn to trust it. Again, salespeople are really hard to get to try new things, the vast majority of them, because they're successful at what they do, because they have been doing these things for a long time and it's worked for them. So they try on something new. Again, only a small percentage of people will be diving into this right away and adopting it. We know this, that people are slow followers when it comes to adopting new things. And this is a really big change in how you do work. So unless you get buy-in at the cultural level, that this is the thing that we want to do to improve our effectiveness at sales, nothing's going to happen. So, and the way to do that is to build trust incrementally in really concrete ways with these tools that they can actually not only drive efficiency, but also effectiveness. Will actually put more dollars in, not just save time, but more dollars into the revenue results, and therefore into the salespeople's pockets. So one of the things to do then is to look at all these big areas: the discovery, the content creation, the sales analytics, and also the coaching and analysis and planning. So the easiest thing to do after identifying those big pain points, because there are so many, is to go and look at your existing sales platforms. And there are already tools being built into them. People like Microsoft's, they have Sales Copilot. Salesforce has Einstein's, especially their activity capture, which just says, I'm just going to capture all these activities, bring them in, automatically parse out the key important points, and make sure they get into the right parts of the CRM. And HubSpot also has an AI assistant. So I'm just looking at the three of the major uh, CRM systems, Salesforce automation systems out there. They already have built this into the system. So you're not training people on new platforms. It's built into the existing platforms they already use. You can turn it on and voila, you're off to the races. Now, you may say, well, maybe we should be building something internally, building our own unique thing. And I can just tell you now, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of money, and you don't know what you're building for. And again, that early buy-in from your salespeople and just showing that effectiveness and efficiency, these early wins is so key. So just buy what's off the shelf, turn it on for a few people, demonstrate that it works. It doesn't require a tremendous staff in-house to go do this and build it. And you can also keep up with the fast changing technology. And if you've been paying attention over the past 2 weeks, so many things have changed over just the past 2 weeks, between the White House coming up with new guidelines, to OpenAI producing new custom GPTs and GPT-4 turbos. So there's a lot change happening. So I really encourage you to, and now because it's changing so quickly, that you not spend a huge amount of time fiddling with the technology, buy what's off the shelf, and really focus on the things that are important to your sales teams to be able to use these tools to, again, get real gains immediately. Um, that said, I think it is important that as soon as you can, and to the extent that these programs allow you, it is to customize and fine tune the models against your own company data. So this could be looking at the sales materials, the case studies that you have, the marketing guidelines, all these things that you can bring in to customize your generative AI tools is going to be super helpful in fine tuning the model and ensuring that it produces better quality results and reduces hallucinations. There is so much evidence that this is the case. So for example, if you are looking at the sales system, making sure that they understand what it means to have a holistic picture of account. What does good look like with that? What are the missing pieces of information? Rather than training it on just how to um, parse out an email into all the different fields. If you're a marketing AI assistant that you're trying to build and making sure it's aligned with the marketing strategy, the brand and language guidelines that you have. And if it's a sales coach, really trying focusing on what does it mean to grow a qualified pipeline rather than just increase the conversion rates. So these are more holistic points of view that you want to be training these new team members on and making sure that happens. Um, Two last points. I think again, who do you have this go to? It's you early adopters, but because this is very technology oriented, you also need to find people what some people call boundary spanners, people who are comfortable with using these platforms, but also can talk to your technology experts inside and will work with them and honor the fact that as we develop these systems, that the programs are also can be implemented, updated, iterated, and sustained over time. IT has a very big concern that if you're going to go off and just implement some one-off tool that's picked up, it can be initially sustain this. And so people who understand both the sales perspective and also the IT perspective are the ones who you need to have pilot at this very beginning to build trust on both sides of that equation. And then finally, think about investing in an AI ops person as this resource for your salespeople internally. It is a role that I'm seeing come up over and over again that you need to increase the AI literacy of people in the development training, be a resource, best practices, and a person who just can understand the operational aspects of bringing AI into your sales operation. So having an AI ops person as a resource is really important, and I think one of the most important roles to invest in upfront. So that's what I have for today. Let me just a couple other comments we have from people. Mark is interested to know how platforms like LinkedIn would be leveraged, for example, identifying second degree connections. I imagine LinkedIn Navigator will become a Gen AI juggernaut if they act on it. Oh, they have plans. I know for a fact that they have many, many plans. One of the biggest things with LinkedIn is they want to protect the validity of and the use of their content of their contacts and not let it be so that you can spam it all over the place. So that's one thing that really protected inside of Navigator. And so the integration of that kind of data into the CRMs and the SFAs is going to be something that they want to protect. But it's also something I think that they recognize this is a really big need for people and that this is something that people are going to do anyways. And whether they do it themselves manually or they have an AI agent do this automatically, there's a limit to how much they can limit that. So we'll see how that dynamic plays out over time. But I think it's one of those things where agents in particular, ones that are developed for LinkedIn, so LinkedIn will develop an agent so that you can tap into their data without having to use an API, for example. Let's see. Alice has another great point here. I liked, and I advocate for looping in the marketing team on any findings that AI tools uncover so they can continue to deliver on-point sales enablement content and marketing tactics. Absolutely. It's one of the reasons why I'm watching Salesforce and HubSpot so carefully because they've already had these platforms that integrated marketing and sales, but they were really two separate platforms that marketing teams would use and then salespeople would use. And I think generative AI tools that tap into both in a seamless way. So instead of having flipped interfaces and pay for two, you're tapping into that inherent knowledge base that's already there without having to invest in that training of a salesperson to tap into marketing, but you can still leverage the data and the content that marketing is creating and marketing can tap into the sales knowledge and analytics so that they both have that information to be able to do their jobs better. But it doesn't require necessarily a full on usage of each of those platforms to be able to get that. So I'm really curious and interested to see how this space develops. I just wanted to lay out some of those initial thoughts and ideas of how, again, this great technology can be used in a sales perspective, and just pull it together because I think, again, this idea that generative AI isn't just a tool, but you think of it as another person on your team that you really develop and invest in the development of this team member. In the same way that when you hire a new team member, they're not going to know how to do everything up front. You're going to have to train them on how you do things inside your company. So think about how you want to train them to be effective in supporting your sales teams, not just sitting there as a tool that people can use, but somebody that you actually trust, an entity that you see as a key and crucial part of your sales team. So hopefully that gives you some ideas and structure for thinking about things. Let me just close out by saying I'm taking next week off. It's Thanksgiving week here in the United States. So I'll be joining you again in 2 weeks on Tuesday, November 28th, and we'll be talking about how to create perfect prompts. Some of the things I've been hearing from people are these extraordinary ways of how they use the prompts, and especially now that that OpenAI just announced that you can now put up to 300 pages of content into a prompt. Why would you do that? How would you do that? And how do you use these prompts to actually create very important IP that you want to keep inside your company and expand and share? So we'll be talking everything you want to know about prompts in 2 weeks. Until then, for those in the US, happy Thanksgiving, and I will see all of you in 2 weeks. Thanks. Bye bye.